So hello everyone and welcome to another How Good Are. We're actually almost done with all the natural 4-star characters in the entire game, but one of the last ones that we need to talk about is Mitama for some reason, because apparently no one has requested her so far, even though she's one of the most popular characters in the entire game, and she's also one of my favorite characters, but people just kept requesting other characters, so I guess we did all of those characters first. But yeah, Mitama now right before the end, we're gonna talk about her as well. Now, some people might know already a bunch of stuff about Mitama, but some people might not actually know that much about Mitama because she kind of flew under the radar in a lot of the early game, like in the first 1 or 2 years of Mega Record on the Japanese server, as well as on the entire North American server. But just recently, in like the last year, she has become somewhat of a very different kind of character, at least in how she is actually used by people. So she is an Excel type gorilla. Of course, she's a support type, and we'll see that she's actually a very good support at that. Her personal gives her 30 MP on start of battle at Magia level 5, which is really good. Especially if her Magia is good. Is her Magia actually good? Well, we'll see about that. But at least right now you can already remember that we indeed will be starting the battle with 30 MP. That's important. The stats are not that important. I mean, she's a support type, like, doesn't really matter too much. But at least it's kind of interesting that she, or rather important, that she is a little bit more on the defensive side with decent HP. Because, of course, as a support, you probably want to actually stick around and don't die immediately. We're gonna skip a Spirit Enhancement as always. I'm gonna go right to her Connect. It heals a bit. It gives added killer, 45% added killer. That is actually quite a lot and can be doing quite a good amount of damage. But keep in mind that this is kind of the only damage dealing effect that this gives. Like, it doesn't give attack up, it doesn't give vector damage up or blast up or any of these other effects. This is the only offensive effect that is on there, and because of that, I mean, even though it is 45% added killer, which is really good, it being the only effect, meaning that you kind of have to actually have the enemy afflict with status ailments, or otherwise this Connect has no offensive part to it at all. And interesting enough, it gives defense down to whoever you're connecting to. I guess that's part of the curse that comes with the Void, and yes, there will be a Void, like a lore video about the entirety of Void and the justice and what it actually means to be Void. But you can already see that there's some stuff going on here with like having a curse that might negatively infect other people around you, or lore stuff. I like lore stuff whenever it's part of the actual gameplay. Moving on with her Magia, we see more of that lore stuff because there's Curse, there's Poison, there's Magia Seal, all on all enemies for 3 turns, 100% chance. That is kind of absurd. That said, though, 2 of these effects are kind of the same. That Curse is just a way stronger version of Poison, and if the enemy is cursed, putting a Poison on them as well probably isn't going to do anything at all. So if the enemy gets hit with the Curse, the Poison might as well not exist. That said, if the enemy has resistances, or they have a Bible, or some sort of immunities to Curse, which might happen, maybe the Poison is going to hit instead, and then if you can hit the Poison instead, you at least still have a status ailment on the enemy, which is of course important with the Connect giving added killer. And on top of all of that, you have a chance to Magia Seal as well. Awesome. Like, even if Curse and Poison both get dodged somehow, maybe you're still gonna hit the Magia Seal, and it lasts for 3 turns, and gonna give you damage up versus enemies, effective status ailments, also known as added killer as well. So many ways of getting the added killer bonus from the Connect, at least for the next 3 turns, not just for this turn, but for the next 3 turns. And of course, if the enemy gets cursed or poison, they take damage. They can't heal if they're cursed, and if they're cursed, they also take bonus damage from weak element. It's great. You deal bonus damage with added killer, you deal bonus damage if it's a curse, and they have the weak element. It does damage itself. They can't evade. Oh my god, so much good stuff comes from having multiple status ailments at once that are all 100%, because usually when you have a Magia that has, for example, applies darkness or whatever to all enemies with like 50% chance. First off, you only have 1 ailment, so they might just resist that, and then they just don't have any ailment on them. Secondly, there would only be 50% chance, which even without ailment, some enemies might not get hit. And thirdly, like, darkness would not be a good effect at all to have on enemies. But here, one of the effects on there is Curse. It's also 3 effects, and they're all 100% on all enemies, and also most other Magias or Doppels that inflict status ailments only last for 1 turn, so you would only get that bonus or that effect for 1 turn. Here, 3 turns. Like every single possible aspect that you would like to have going in your favor is going in your favor with this Magia. It's amazing. It's actually amazing. And on top of that, like by the way, just this, I said it's amazing, but if it was just this, it would be a good Magia, but it wouldn't be a fantastic Magia. But this is a fantastic Magia, because even though it doesn't deal damage, and yes, this is the only Magia in the entire game that doesn't deal damage, it gives attack up to all allies. A 45% attack up to all allies, which also means that she is absolutely fantastic at buffing her entire team and giving everyone an immense amount of attack up. She is easily one of the best supports in the entire game. Also, when you keep in mind that she is an Excel Gorilla, so if you slap her on any Magia team, she's gonna give people the MP to start pumping Magia out. With her personal, she starts with 30 MP. She can apply all status ailments, all the status ailments too, and all the enemies for 3 turns. Amazing. Gives all your guys Attitude Killer unlocked. It gives attack up to everyone, buffing people to high heavens. Amazing. And it also curses herself. You know what? Whatever. Mitama just curses herself. Stuff just happens, you know. And if you go to the Doppel, here's interesting bit. The curse and poison both become strengthened. What does strengthen mean? It just means instead of dealing its usual damage that it does, for example with curse, it's 15% of the enemy maximum HP, and with poison it's 5% of the enemy maximum HP. It instead deals 30% of the enemy maximum HP at the end of the turn. So if both of these hit, it would actually be 60% of the enemy maximum HP that they would take at the end of the turn. Which is absurdly powerful, and is exactly why it doesn't work, because damage over time effects are capped to 10,000 damage. You cannot do more than 10,000 damage to someone with one of these effects at the end of the turn, and that damage cap is is shared by all of these different effects. So if you have both curse and poison on the target, you still can't deal like 20,000. You can only deal a maximum of 10,000 combined. So it's really bad against any sort of boss or anyone with a lot of HP. But in PvP, if somehow you hit a strengthened curse or strengthened poison, or in general, if you use this somehow against someone who doesn't have a lot of HP, they will take a crap ton of their maximum HP and damage. But you know, up to 10,000, which if you're playing a strong Magia team, it's just a flick of the wrist from anyone else, so it's still not that powerful. What else does it do? Well, the Doppel also still does Magia Seal. It still gives attack up 60%. Oh my god, it's like 15% more than what it does on the Magia, but still curses themselves. Oh, by the way, Totentanz, and that's the way you pronounce it, Totentanz, is German for Dance of the Dead. I like her lore. Her lore is one of my favorite parts in the entire game. And yes, as Moxicodone does point out, she was really good against Vampire Kanegi as well. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the Magia and the Connect and what it all means for a character, but we still have Spirit Enhancement to go through, because of course this is Spirit Enhancement stuff. We have some stuff to make her more tanky, damage cut awesome, some regular bonuses that you would expect from other characters, although it is worth pointing out she gets 2 XLMP gain bonuses, but they're both rather weak. She gets chance to poison on attack also for 3 turns, still able to put more and more stealth ailments on enemy, chance to curse on attack, even more stealth ailments on enemies. She gets Excel and Magia damage cut as well, so makes it even more tanky. She has chance to skill quicken, which is also really good, especially for PvP. If you just randomly get a turn to active Memoria out, awesome. And she has a very special active, it's redraw discs. So if you are going into mirrors, especially in mirrors, and you just happen to draw bad discs on turn 1 or turn 2, guess what? You snap your fingers, you redraw those discs, and hey, maybe next time you're gonna get better discs, you know? So it gives you bonus chance to redraw, which is a good skill to have on a support, because this is a skill that can really help out your entire team without Mitama herself having to deal any damage, which is really good. So overall, she seems like a really amazing Magia support, and she is an amazing Magia support. On most Magia teams, she's an auto-include. Like most really strong Magia teams will just include a Mitama. She was one of the top characters on any Kimochi that was focused on Magia damage, so she's an absolute top character. Now, if you've come here from the North American server, or if you've played in the very first 2 years of Magia Record, you might say to yourself, wait a second, I remember people saying that Mitama is actually really bad, and I don't remember that many people actually playing Mitama. I didn't see that many Mitamas, so why? How is it that people didn't actually play Mitama and said that she was a bad character for such a long time? How is that possible? Well, here's why. It's simply because of the meta. For a long time, the meta, and for basically the entire lifetime of North American server before it died, the meta of Mega Record was, in mirrors, especially ranked mirrors, you do a turn 2 blast connect to win the game, and that gives you the maximum amount of point. Turn 2 blast connect. Mitama is the worst character, one of the worst characters in the entire game to actually do something like that. So in mirrors and ranked mirrors, she was just not in the picture whatsoever. She was terrible for that. Then you move on to the PvE aspect, where most quests you could just blast down. If you had a Tard or the North American server and Ashley, you could just blast down every single quest. Why go for Magia? Why go for Magia if you can just blast everything down? Kimochi didn't exist, so there was no need for doing something like a Kimochi strategy. And even tough challenge quests, even on tough challenge quests, if you just got really strong blast characters, you could just blast enemies down and it didn't matter. So Mitama just didn't fit into any of these places. Like, where would you play Mitama, right? But now on the Japanese server, you have Kimochi. And on Kimochi, she's one of the top characters because, like I said, she's really amazing for a Magia setup. 2, in ranked mirrors, where now suddenly you're playing over multiple turns, like 2 or 3 turns, with trying to get Magia out, but those Magias are trying to not immediately win, because if you win too quickly, you don't get more points. So you're trying to connect, keep people alive, so the HP restore helps with that. You're trying to not immediately win, but make it extremely likely that you're gonna win, which the Magia is also gonna do. The skill quicken makes it likely that you, not likely, but makes you sometimes get turned to actives, which is amazing. Like, Mitama works really well in the new ranked mirrors on the Japanese server, so she fits in there, so she fits in Kimochi. And EX challenge quests have gotten, at least for some events, so difficult that playing a Magia strategy suddenly became more important. And suddenly when you're playing a Magia strategy, Mitama is looking really well. So Mitama went from being one of the least used characters in the entire game, who basically had no place anywhere because she was basically just the Magia support, but the Magia support, to suddenly being really good in all of these different places. So Mitama is probably the most redeemed characters in the entire game. It's kind of amazing. And yes, asked in chat for Ashley Taylor. We're gonna get her on JP at some point. So Mitama, love that, looking really good. I really like her. But we're gonna have to move on to characters that I don't like. It's Ryou. Haha. So Ryou is a character that exists. She's a Magia type with 2 Excelis, 2 Blast Discs. She has a personal that is bad. She has stats that are... I mean, the attack could potentially be workable if she gets to 5-star somewhere, because she's not at 5-star yet. But apart from that, her stats aren't that great. Her connect is... It gives damage up, which is fine, but apart from that, chance of darkness on attack. Darkness isn't that amazing of an effect, but at least maybe if you have some people with Addict Killer on your team, you can activate Addict Killer for your team. And yeah, that can be fine, I guess, but still not that amazing of a connect. But it's also not bad. It's not a bad connect, because 35% damage up is already pretty alright. But just a somewhat middle-of-the-road connect, I would say. Magia Bella Spina. It does attribute strength and damage to one enemy. It charms the enemy, defends down, and removes buffs. So this really screws over a single enemy, but... You know, her attack isn't that great, so it's not going to do that much damage because she's still a 4-star. The charm is nice. The defense down is not that great. I mean, it's fine, And the remove buffs also, sometimes could potentially do something. Overall, her Magia is sort of like... nothing in here is super duper awesome, but not specifically terrible. All of this is usable. At least these 2 effects are usable in most cases, so... Yeah, she's fine, I guess. And then you also look at the Spirit Enhancement, where it's just some bunch of random bonuses that aren't too important. She gets Evade, she gets Critical Hit, and she gets Chance of Darkness on attack. At least that can be sometimes interesting. And she has Darkness to 1 unit as her active. So overall, her effects seem not bad. They're decent, but nothing more. This is a character that is decent, but really nothing more. I don't have much else to say about Salami, because Peter Bread doesn't have anything special. Like I said, like Chia Princess has darkness on a bunch of her attacks and on her active, and if you really want darkness, but it's just not an effect that you like specifically ever require for any quest. It's just an effect that's like nice to have sometimes, and like Rita just doesn't have much else to offer. So overall, sometimes you can use her if you have nothing else good on your team, and she's gonna be fine. But she doesn't really get above that too much. Moving on to a character that's rather similar, but I still prefer this one a little bit. It's the smug Ryou, who I'm going to talk about the personal right away. The thing is about this personal is that it's fine if you have no other good offensive 4-star Memoria. So if you're just starting the game or you just don't have many good Memoria, this is a personal that you can use to free up some space for other characters. So yeah, this is fine. This is fine. So what does she like? She has 2 blast discs, 2 charge discs, which is not that great to be honest, because as we're gonna find out, she's not really about attacking. She's actually more about Magia and stuff, but yeah, we're gonna get to that. She has decent attack. For someone who's capped at 4-star, she has decent attack. She also has decent defense as well. So her stats would actually be quite alright once she reaches 5-star. So she would actually have pretty decent stats at 5-star once she gets uncapped. So uncap Ryou at some point, guys. Also, her connect gives attack up, gives anti-evade, only 80%. Why not 100%? Like, anti-evade is not that amazing of an effect in most cases, that it would have to be nerfed for some reason. Like, sure, when it's important, but it's not important in so many cases. And so on 99% of quests, you just have the attack up and nothing else, so The Magia, however, damages one enemy, and this is why I said she was more of a Magia type. She gives herself Magia damage up 45% for 5 turns. So if you can pump out multiple Magias with her in a row, that would actually deal a great amount of damage. And it's single target, so I guess it would be for bullying single target enemies. And it even restores her own MP, so you can keep using this. And since she doesn't have Doppel yet, her Doppel might have stronger effects. It's possible that once she gets uncapped to 5-star, maybe her Magia or her Doppel could apply Magia damage up to all allies and not just to herself, which would make her really amazing. If we look at her Spirit Enhancement as well, we have some Magia damage up 15% in here, which is actually quite a lot, as well as some really big Doppel damage up, even though she doesn't have a Doppel yet. So some really big bonuses for Doppel and Magia damage in here. Her Magia buffs her own Magia, it's amazing. She starts the battle with 30 MP, and she only has 1 Excel disc. She has so many bonuses, both passive and active, like on her Magia. So many good bonuses for playing a Magia style, and she has 1 Excel disc. I don't understand this character. I don't understand it. She's not even Magia type. She's not even Magia type, even though everything about her kit is playing Magia. Maybe her uncap would have more Magia stuff in there, who knows. She also has 35% chance anti-evade, 50% chance crit, 50% chance evade. You know what? It's because she's an attacker, not a Magia type. And her active just gives darkness to all enemies, 42.5%. That is just not good enough for me, like for it to be an amazing active. But you know what? Sometimes you might make enemies miss with this and it will be good, but still only just average. So overall, if you have a quest where you know there's an enemy single target, single tile, forest enemy, and you want to play a Magia strategy, slap Ryou in there. She's gonna be really good if you can use her Magia multiple times in a row. So overall, she would actually sound like a really good single target Magia damage dealer, one of the best maybe in the entire game if she was uncapped to 5-star and had good additional effects. But as it looks right now, she only has 1 Excel disc and she's capped to 4-star. Which both of that are like, one of that is a bullet in one knee, the other one is a bullet in the other knee, and she collapses without any legs to stand on, and she's kind of not that great currently. I still prefer her to other lower rarity characters like this one, for example, this one Salami, but she still has potential to be pretty decent, pretty good actually, with uncap, so hope for that uncap. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and I'll see you guys next time.